Today we're going to change the oil on a Kawasaki KLR650 Gen 3. You're going to need 3 quarts of motorcycle oil, 10W40. Make sure it has wet clutch protection in the oil. I use a K&N oil filter. This is the KN123. Dick 1 construction, you know, the heavy duty one. Make sure that it fits your KLR650. Pliers, can be any set of pliers. This is just to loosen the oil cap if it's too tight. We're going to use a 17 mil and an 8 mil with a ratchet and an oil pan to drain in. First, we're going to slide this oil pan under the bike. Find your oil cap. You may need pliers. Sometimes these are on pretty tight. We're going to loosen it up all the way off. Once it's off, we'll set it back on. We want it backed out so that there's airflow through the case. It pushes the oil out much faster. And we put this back on just to ensure that no dust or debris enters your case while doing this change. Now we'll go under the bike. You'll find this plug right here. It's the only plug under the bike right beneath the skid plate. This is going to be backed off with a 17 mil. Now that washer fell out, we're going to get it and wait for this oil to drain. You're going to want to get on your bike and level it. Put it back on the kickstand, level it, put it back on the kickstand, level it, until this is going to have a little bit of a drip. You're going to shake the engine by getting on the bike and leveling it, pushing more of the oil out of the case. We're going to drain all the oil out that's possible until it comes to a fine drip like you see here. With the washer back on the nut, we are going to screw this back in hand tight. I'm going to take the ratchet after it's hand tight, give it about a quarter to a half turn more. You do not want to over tighten this thing because it will be a royal pain in the ass to take off next time. Before we put oil back in the case, we are going to prep and replace the oil filter. I give it a nice wipe down around just to ensure that no debris or dirt, dust enters this area or the case as a whole. You're going to take your 8mm and your ratchet, and you're going to loosen this up. Mine didn't come off so easy, so I'm using a really fine flathead to pop it off. This is the inside. This centerpiece is going to come out, and we can ditch the old filter. Once your cap's off, you're going to want to inspect the O-ring or the gasket. Make sure that it is not broken or damaged in any fashion. Mine looks good. Next, inspect your, I don't even know what this is, the rod. But most importantly, I want to point out that this smaller side is actually going to go into the bike. Make sure that this smaller side goes into the bike. That is extremely important. With your rod in the oil filter, you're going to want to ensure that the smaller side is going into the bike. You may have to give it a little bit of a jiggle so that it inserts all the way. Make sure that this is flush. You got this little tab on the bottom of the filter cover. Make sure that that lines up to this part right here. And then we're going to tighten The nuts, I go hand tight. And once it's hand tight, we'll bring in the ratchet. And keep going back and forth until we get it firm. Now that it's firm, I'm going to give it maybe a half turn. We don't want to over tighten it, but we do want it secure. Now that the oil filter is ready, we are going to put oil back into the case. Kawasaki calls for 2.7 liters of oil. Now it's time to take your cap off. Sometimes people use a filter. They make these bottles small enough where it goes in nicely without it. I'm going to fill this all the way with 2.5 liters. Once I get to the half on the third liter, I'm going to check the eyelid of the oil because we don't want to overfill it. Now we're on the third. We're only gonna put half of this liter in the bike. Now that we have half, I'm going to put the cap back on and take a look at the eyelid, see where we're at as far as our oil level goes. With your bike level to the ground, you're going to want to ensure that the oil line is between those two notches on the eyelid. Mine came out quite perfect with 2.5 liters, or quarts, excuse me. Make sure that your oil is between those two lines on the eyelid there, and you're going to be just fine. That extra quart or half quart that I have, I'm going to put it on the bike because these bikes, they do like to drink oil, and it's always good to have some extra on you. Happy riding, and hope this video helped you.